next in the program, we're a little bit late, sorry for that, it will be Helen Tucker. She got a very interesting title, which I find fascinating, which is Managed Services Contracts Manager for Thermo Fisher Scientific. She's after leaving school, she initially trained as an MLSO, which stands for
Medical Laboratory Scientific Officer, now BMS.
BMS, exactly, in Cellular Pathology at King's College Hospital. Then, 6 years later, she joined Shandon Scientific as a territory manager and worked in a number of sales roles, including National Sales Manager, Distribution Manager, and European Channel Manager, all within the cellular pathology area now. She's now, as I said, the Managed Service Contracts Manager for all of the Thermo Fisher Scientific businesses, covering all areas of pathology and clinical healthcare. And today she will be discussing with you all range of employment options in industry and beyond the lab for biomedical science graduates. So, welcome to Helen.
Okay, I thought I would start with a slide that just summarises my career so far, although you've got a snapshot of it just there. So, as I say there, I left school with A levels, 4 A levels, back in the day when you didn't have to have a degree to get into biomedical sciences. That just shows you how old I am. So I joined the Cellular Pathology lab at King's College Hospital in London, which way back then was actually called Morbid Anatomy. Sorry, I'll get the hang of this in a minute. I studied for an HNC, which again, as Ian said, no longer exists. And I also qualified as an IBMS fellowship, which was the sort of top qualification at the time. And I became a senior MLSO, which is equivalent to a grade 7. Okay, it's all changed since my day. Okay, so. And then after 6 years, I was actually approached by a former colleague who suggested that I apply for a job in a sales position out in the commercial world, something I hadn't really considered, but I applied and I got the job. I'd like to say that's my car. It's not my car. But you do get a really nice car. So over the years, working originally with Shandon Scientific and more recently as Thermo Fisher Scientific, I've done a number of sales roles, starting as a territory account manager, looking after the southeast and London, and then various roles through national sales manager, looking after a sales team, distributor manager responsible for Ireland and the Benelux, European channel manager as well, and that was all making use of my cellular pathology background. And then most recently, I've become the Managed Service Contracts Manager, which is a particular type of business that we do with the NHS, and that covers all of the businesses within Thermo. I'm not even going to start on what that means because I'll be here for the rest of the day. So, why did I move out of the lab? Financial rewards for success. I'll be honest, don't be embarrassed to want to go out and earn lots of money. That's not to say that I do, but I came to realise back then that staying in the NHS wasn't necessarily for me. And realised that it wasn't going to be the long-term career. What I wanted to do though was change my career but make use of the scientific knowledge that I'd had doing all my training and working in the lab. And really that was why I moved into an industry that was relevant, and I was actually selling histology, cell path products back to the labs where I used to work. And also it gives you a good opportunity to go out and see how other labs work. And I put there see more of the country. John, who's a colleague, or not a colleague, but in the same field as me, we spend far too much of our time sitting on the M25 looking at the back of other cars, but I wouldn't say let that put you off. But really, what we wanted to do, those of us that move into the commercial side or the industrial side, is help people solve their problems in the laboratory situation. And I'll be honest, probably when I first went into sales, it was more about shifting boxes. But really, what you realise over the years is it becomes much more collaborative, and you really are helping solve the problems in the lab. So what kind of problems do our customers actually want to solve? Not surprisingly, in healthcare, it's all around new drug treatments, combating diseases, and also discovering the causes of disease. So a lot of the companies out there are very much involved in cancer research, life science research, diagnostics and cures. But it's not just about directly about the humans, if you like. There's also a big effort out there in terms of helping the farmers produce greater yields of crops, reducing disease. So there's lots of other areas well beyond the hospitals and clinical healthcare. And that also extends obviously to the animal population as well. With the booming population that we have in the world, we need to make sure that the food chain is as healthy as possible, and again that we're getting really good yields. And also a lot of the work that the companies are involved in might be around new energy sources. Example there of algae and ethanol being looked at as alternative fuels. Now those are just literally a handful of examples of the sort of areas that the companies in industry are working with labs. So what is the industry's role in all of this? Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide solutions for our customers to increase the speed and the, if you like, accuracy of their research. Whether that's in the hospital environment, whether that's in the research environment, everything that the labs are doing, they need to be doing it quicker. Everyone wants to get a cure for cancer quicker. It applies everywhere where the lab's working. So what else do we want to do? Well, we want to be able to provide cutting-edge technology for the scientists. It's all about being able to process data faster and also more accurately. And I think it was Sarah was saying about the areas of molecular biology and genomics. That's absolutely key in an awful lot of the technologies that are out there doing, and how we work with the laboratories to drive that process. And this might seem like an odd one to put up there, but offering kits that are packaged up very easy for the scientists to use. And that's not because you're not technically capable, but the reality is that what it brings into the lab is standardisation and reproducibility. Back in the day when I was working in the lab, and sure, same time as Sarah, we used to make it all up ourselves, brew it all up in the lab, and looking back now, we probably think that wasn't the best use of our time, wasn't necessarily very accurate, and we probably had a different batch every week. Now, in science of this century, you just can't work like that. So, what sorts of customers are we supporting, and all of the other companies out there that work in this arena? Not surprisingly, the main area and the main customers that we support is the NHS, Public Health England. To be fair, with the pharmaceutical companies, you could well be looking for jobs there yourselves, but we obviously work with companies like GSK and AstraZeneca. There's big contract research labs. They'll also have laboratories that need scientists as well. And as Ian has touched on, academic science labs. Every university pretty much, I would say, in the UK has research labs of some sort, and they're going to need products as well. So whether that's you helping them solve their solutions or you being part of that solution, those are all the sorts of areas that we touch on. So, the bit you really want to know about. What types of careers are there for BMS graduates? Well, the obvious one that most, I think a lot of lab people think about once they've been in the lab for a while, is the possibility of going into a sales role. And this really comes from the fact that you see these smart suited sales guys coming into the lab with their briefcases, and you think, I think maybe I'd like a piece of that. So what I would say is, if you're thinking about sales, and it is possible to go straight from a graduate's position into a sales job, although it is more usually after a few years in the lab, then have a think about the sort of person that you are and whether you have an open and engaging personality. Do you like talking to people? Do you like listening to their concerns? And are you able to work independently and have plenty of motivation? Because the reality is that you are the person who has to get yourself out of bed every morning and decide where you want to go and what you want to do that day. So looking at some of the areas of solving customer problems, these are the sorts of things that customers want from us, and this is what's changed very much over the years. They want improved efficiency in the lab. They need improved turnaround time, so they need to get the results out quicker. It may be about supply chain efficiencies. It's no longer about selling them a box to put on the bench. It's more about, have I got the right things in the cupboard at the right time? They want e-commerce capabilities. They want lean workflow. They want to be able to have access to the most innovative testing technologies, and they want help with their research. And I put there finally, although some people would put this at the front, save money. But the reality is if you do all of the ones on the list above, you'll be doing that for them anyway. And that's going to be really, really important in the labs. So what else could you be doing? Well, technology and application support specialists, all right? So if you think that sales isn't quite for you, perhaps, but you still think that you'd like to make use of that technology and that science that you've gained from your degree, then lots of companies out there are looking for people to support the efforts in the field. And that may be around demonstrating instruments to customers, developing new applications, working on installation and training. So that's a really good balance of getting around the labs, supporting customers, but making good use of your science knowledge. And not surprisingly, the large pharma companies and the large companies that are supplying to the laboratories are also developing products constantly. And that means, certainly with the large companies, they're all going to have their own laboratory scientists as well. So that could be cellular biologists they need, chemists, geneticists, molecular biologists, every sort of science in the lab while the companies are developing new products. So what else could this lead to? Well, product specialists and product managers. So if ultimately somebody in this room ends up in blood sciences, becomes an expert on that very high-end clinical chemistry analyzer, you might suddenly find your skills are very valuable to the companies that sells those sorts of products, and ultimately that could mean you become a product specialist and a manager of that product range for that company. And that could be all around marketing a new product, launching that product out into the market. And there's plenty of people who have moved into those sorts of roles. Supply chain and distribution management. Now again, this goes a little bit back to what Ian was saying. If you've already had enough of science, and perhaps want to pursue a slightly different direction, then supply chain and distribution management may be something that you can help with, whether that be within a company or whether that's solving a problem for a customer. And I think Sarah touched on this one as well. Quality, regulatory and compliance. That is something that the labs need, it's something that the companies need as well. So if you find that you start work in the laboratory, you have a desire, if you like, or you particularly get into the quality side of things, then that would be a very transferable skill out into the industry as well. Lean and Six Sigma. I don't know if you know much about Lean and Six Sigma, but there's an awful lot of it about out in the industrial world, in the commercial world. And again, if you have an interest in that, all of the major companies, and probably all the small companies as well, to be fair, are all looking about improving their processes and being more efficient and rolling out Six Sigma and Kaizen type projects. And there's always a requirement for marketing, because if you're producing new products that you think are going to be life-changing or really going to be a step change in the laboratory, then we need marketing. We need a tactical marketing team, and we need strategic marketers as well to get that product out into the marketplace and to really spread the message about what that product will achieve for you. I could have put an awful lot more examples out there, but I just thought that would be a shot for you. So basically, companies like Thermo Fisher Scientific have a mission, and we need lots of top quality people, and so do all the other companies. And it's not just the fields that I've touched on where we need people, or where you may want to consider, and again, this has come up already. We've got the scientists, we've got the engineers, so we need people to go out and fix things and service things and develop things. We have lawyers, so if you get into the legal side of things, software designers, accountants, and really all of those go into making a business a success. And really, again, even within the NHS or any institution, they'll probably have areas that touch on an awful lot of those places as well. And that is all I have to say. What I would, sorry, one final thing. put on there the link to the careers website. This isn't meant to be a shameless plug for the company I happen to work for, but it just happens to be that way. But what I have done is I have got a printout, and on the back of this it lists all the areas that we might recruit people into. Now, this isn't exceptional to this company. This would apply to many other companies as well, and it will cover a much, much greater list than I've covered here today. So if you want one of these as you leave here, or if when we go down to have the more informal chat, then please help yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Do we have a question for Helen? Just one or two.
Just a quick question. Would we need any extra experience to go into any of these fields, or is a degree in biomedical science enough?
I would say if you were going to go into the laboratories within one of the large companies, then I would say you're probably in a good position to go straight in. On the sales side, I know, from my experience, we have recruited people straight from university, but that is fairly unusual. What you tend to find is that people go and work in the NHS, in the labs for a few years, get some lab experience, and then realise, frankly, that that's not where they see the whole of the rest of their career, which is very much what I did. And I think I could ask John here, but certainly over the years that I was recruiting into sales, all of the people I recruited into the sales team came from the NHS and came from the lab.
Yeah, I'd back that up. The vast majority, being John referred to there, the vast majority would have had some experience, and it's not just useful to know what you're talking about then when you go and see customers, you also then are part of a network and you know people as well. So
yeah, and I would also say, okay, I'm old school and I've got a fellowship, but when I went on my business card, when I went in and it said I was an FIBMS, then I had a certain credibility with all my new customers, because the first thing they'd say is, what is your fellowship in? And I'd say cellular pathology, and immediately they thought, well, she knows what she's talking about. Well, I hope that's what they thought. But so it does make a difference having that lab experience.
Hi. Can we go back to the original slide at the beginning, and could you explain a little bit more about the time scales, such as how long it took you to get to each position?
Oh my goodness. I have been doing this a very long time. I am very old. There we go, all the way back there. Okay, so let me think. Territory account manager, how long did I do that for? I probably did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I did business unit manager for 2 or 3. I was national sales manager after that. And then in some respects, the national sales manager distributor manager was an increasing of my role. I probably did that for about 10 years. European channel manager I did for about 4 years, and then this one is only a year. Now, what I would say, I'm extremely unusual in that I've stayed with the same company on the commercial side all of my career, which is very, very rare. And I did that, well, it doesn't really matter why I did it, but the company was expanding and opportunities arose, and I didn't see the need to move. The reality is that most people who go into, certainly in sales, jump around all the time, and that's expected, and that is a good way to progress. And it's a little bit like Sarah was saying about moving up from a 5 to a 6 to a 7. You need to be prepared to shift around companies. Okay.
Thank you so much, Helen.